howdy all, grab yourself a drink, it's time for some Path of Exile discussion. I posed a question of my YouTube community asking what their expectations were for the future of Recombinators. Leaving aside their own opinions on the matter, what do they actually expect GGG are likely to do? And you can see the results here. This is likely to go for a few more days and still get a few more votes, but I think with 2,800 votes we can say that there's a pretty clear pattern developing. Most people do not expect them to stay at their current power or close to it. Most expect them to be reworked and nerfed pretty significantly and stay in the game, with a fair number of people expecting them to not remain in the game in any recognizable form. So either to go completely legacy and be dumped to standard only, kind of like tainted currency was, or to be nerfed so hard that they're barely recognizable. So without going into my opinions on the matter, let's look at the reasons that I think they won't go core. I want to look at some of the most extreme items that have been crafted, but then I want to finish up by looking at an item that is much less extreme, but that is likely the reason that they won't go core. So Kraken Cowl is one of the Blight uniques, at least that's how it started off life. These Blight uniques allow you to put 2 enchantments on them, and you can replace one or both of those enchants with anointments. So most people just grab this, they anoint it twice, and then they will use it. However, you can corrupt them, and you can try and corrupt them into a rare item, much like people tend to do with Strangle Gasp. With Kraken Cowl, something very different has been done. That's how it started life. It's been put into the 2 implicit corruption chamber, and it has come out as a Warlord influenced item. After that, however, it has then been recombined with various other items over and over until the perfect mods on it have been built up. This is definitely not something that most crafters can do, but most crafters can get the starting points of this. You could allocate Charisma and Champion of the Cause on one of these helmets. You could then corrupt it into a rare, and then you could recombinate it with something that has a couple of good mods. You won't get all of these great mods, but you'll be able to get some of them. So that was the first item that made me think, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure these aren't going to stick around. But there were more. Next was a set of fingerless silk gloves. Now, Cataclysm Fist required mirrors to be used as crafting inputs in order to make it. And so this is one of those examples of an item that is ridiculously over the top. However, it is also the sort of item that is going to have a bit of an impact on the future of this mechanic. This is essentially 6 perfect mods on an item for a Spark or a Stacker, and is absolutely ridiculous. Keep that thread of 6 perfect mods in your mind, because we'll come back to it later. So I'm expecting at the moment that there are 10 Exalta League players that are thinking, what does it matter what people are doing with 2,000 plus Exalts on a single item? Because that's all of these crafts you've seen so far have cost in that sort of range. The issue is that when people have got access to these ridiculous items, they're able to then outcompete you for access to the same bosses. So if you're trying to get the non-quest version of the Searing Exarch down for the first time, or maybe you're trying to do Uber Elder for the first time, you're going to be buying access keys, and also at the same time, these people with the ridiculous gear are trying to buy those same access keys. The difference is that they're doing 75 of the Exarch an hour, or they're doing 30 Uber Elders an hour, and they're doing them that fast that they're basically buying up the entire market. If you do get a lucky drop, then you're going to be competing with these people who are running the boss encounter dozens of times an hour in order to sell yours. And so you're going to have to undercut them. If you don't get a lucky drop, your entry fee will have been higher because they're competing with you to buy all of those entry fees. And so increasing the power of those top-end players then increases their ability to outcompete you. Next is Chimeric Band. This is a synthesized unset ring with +4 maximum charges total. It needs to have prefixes crafted on it. This is just the way that it was posted to the Path of Exile subreddit. Next is a bow with a perfect synthesized implicit. Bow attacks fire an additional arrow. Flaring, Merciless, Dictators, the full version of the Veiled Local Crit mod, +2 arrows and tier 1 attack speed. That says tier 2, but it is actually tier 1. This bow is pretty much perfect, except for the possibility of having multiple synthesized implicits on it. There is no way that this bow could have existed in any previous league. Next is Dragon Cloak. This is a standard item, and this has a whole bunch of the game's biggest ever design mistakes consolidated onto one item. 3.6 era energy shield mods, Unassailable back when that could be 132%, and Essence of Woe back when that could be 152 flat ES. We have the Chayola local defense mod. We have the old version of the Bound Fossil exclusive mod, 25% increased effect of non-curse auras from your skills. That would later be moved over to the Redeemer. We have the 50% increased energy shield from the old version of Dense Fossils. And then we have a 10% increased mana reservation efficiency mod as well. This item is kind of completely ridiculous, and one of the most powerful things that will ever exist in the game. However, it is in standard where it can do a lot less damage, because it's in standard, it's competing with things like Legacy Vessel of Vinctar and ultimately this is not as powerful as Legacy Vessel of Minkdar is. No, the item that really convinced me that there was no future for Recombinators was this. So your first thought when you look at Gale Twirl is that any good? And your second thought is, no, it's not. So why is it in this video? Why does it say anything much about Recombinators? Ultimately, the only way you can make an item like Gale Twirl is with a full-on item editor. Every pair of mods on this item, and there are 6 mods that have each been carefully chosen because they take up 2 lines of text in order to create the absolute visual mess that you see there. Every pair of mods on this has been chosen to be mutually incompatible. The game has a whole bunch of checks and balances on character power and on crafting. For example, once you apply a Warlord's Exalted Orb to an item, you can't then go and apply a Redeemer Exalt to add a Redeemer mod. No, you have to then use an Awakener's Orb, or if you've already used an Awakener's Orb, you can't apply any more influences to it. There's all of these checks and balances. Gale Twirl demonstrates how Recombinators break them. Fundamentally, the only way you can make Gale Twirl is with an item editor. Recombinators are that item editor. You could use this exact same process, just with different inputs, and you could make an item that has, for example, 6 Maven elevated influence mods on it. So what happens if you add something that's incredibly overpowered to the core game, then remove it later? Well, we've got a case study in this from the backlash when Harvest was nerfed. Harvest was added to the core game at full power in patch 3.13, and then was dialed down to its current state in 3.14. The manifesto that Chris Wilson posted explaining this decision ended up being the most downvoted thread on the Path of Exile subreddit in its history. It required the moderators of the subreddit to sticky it so that it was visible, because Reddit automatically starts censoring things that get a certain number of downvotes. You basically can't see them. And additionally, the reaction on the Path of Exile official forums was pretty bad. This is the single most upvoted reply on the Path of Exile subreddit. This is Blizzard/EA levels of ignorance when it comes to your own game. And then it keeps getting worse from there. There are also a whole lot of other posts at the same time. The recent Harvest nerfs and the toxicity surrounding it made me realize that a lot of you should all take a break from the game. The toxicity of this subreddit rivals LoL and Dota 2 communities, and so on and so forth. GGG will definitely have learnt from this. They will not make this mistake again, and that means that they will not keep Recombinators in the game in their current form, because if they do, then at some point down the track, they're probably going to want to remove them, and when they do that, you're going to end up with another situation like this. Avoiding that situation is definitely in their interests, so I think they will definitely say they're not going to go core as they currently are. So that ends my predictions as to what's going to happen with Recombinators. As for my opinions on the matter, if you're interested, I think they are too powerful as they currently stand. I don't think it's enough just to remove the ability to use them on corrupted items and mirrored items. I do think it's going to take more of a nerf than that. And ultimately, what I think I'd be for is having a system where once an item has been the output of a recombination, it can't then be used as the input into another recombination. That would then be a massive reduction of their top-end power, but it would keep them pretty strong for the sort of player that's trying to get Uber Elder down for the first time, or maybe trying to get Shaper or Elder down for the first time. It will help them get a significant power boost, but it will not necessarily provide the same level of power boost to the top end of town. That's all I got on this. May your Recombinators and your Varlords have interesting results.